Hey everyone, welcome to our Functions Guide. This guide is designed to help you navigate and understand the functions available in Engini's workflows. So, let's get started and explore the power of functions. Today, we are going to talk about logical functions. If you go to the Functions tab, you will see several function categories. You can filter the desired function by typing it directly or by navigating through the categories. For example, if I choose the logical functions category, many functions such as AND, OR, IF, and more will appear. Each function comes with an explanation on how to use it. Let's try the IF function. The IF function will check whether an expression is true or false. For example, let's check if 5 equals 6 and receive a yes or no answer. For this, I'll also need the equals function. Again, I can filter it directly or navigate to it. Now, I'll insert the required fields in the equals function first, then insert the output I want to receive, and let's see what we get. Click on the Save button, and now we can test it. As you can see, the test is successful, and we got the no answer because 6 is indeed not equal to 5. Now, let's check if 5 is greater than 6 using the greater function. The type will be Boolean since the result is a true or false expression. Now, I'll filter the greater function and input the values 5 and 6. Save it and let's test it again. As expected, the answer is false because 5 isn't greater than 6. Next, let's look at the greater or equals function. This function compares two values and checks if the first value is greater than or equal to the second value. If the first value is greater than or equal to the second, the function will return true. Otherwise, it will return false. For example, let's check if 12 is greater than or equal to 12. Since the two values are equal, the function will return true. So, the output of this function in this case will be true. Let's try this in our workflow. I'll input 12 and 12 into the greater or equals function. After saving and testing, the result should be true since 12 is equal to 12. Now, let's try a different scenario. What happens if we input 10 and 12? Since 10 is not greater than or equal to 12, the function will return false. Let's test it. And as expected, the output is false. Next, let's explore the AND function. The AND function returns true only if all conditions are met. Otherwise, it returns false. To demonstrate this, we'll use the equal and greater functions that we've already covered. You can use different parameters, but for now, let's see what happens when we input the values 5 and 6 into the equal function. Since these values are not equal, it will return false. We'll also use the greater function with the same values, 5 and 6, which will also return false because 5 is not greater than 6. Given that both conditions return false, the overall output of the AND function should also be false. Let's save and test it. As expected, the result is false. Now, let's see what happens if we change the values to equal numbers like 5 and 5, which will return true in the equal function, and also switch the order of 5 and 6 in the greater function so that it now returns true. Save and test it. As you can see, the AND function now returns a true result. Let's move on to the OR function. The OR function returns true if at least one of the conditions is met. If all conditions are false, it will return false. Let's try an example. First, we'll use the equals function again, inputting 5 and 6, which we know will return false. Next, we'll use the greater function, but this time we'll check if 5 is greater than 4. Since 5 is indeed greater than 4, this will return true. Because the OR function only requires one condition to be true, the overall output will be true, even though one of the conditions returned false. Let's save and test it. expected, the result is true. Now, if both conditions were false, for example, if we check if 5 equals 6 and if 5 is greater than 6, both of which are false, the OR function would return false. Let's test that as well. And as expected, we get a false result. Finally, let's explore the NOT function. The NOT function takes an expression and reverses its result. If the expression evaluates to true, the NOT function will return false, and if the expression evaluates to false, the NOT function will return true. For example, let's check if 5 is not greater than 1 using the greater function. Since 5 is greater than 1, the greater function will return true, and the NOT function will reverse this and return false. Let's test this out. I'll use the greater function to check if 5 is greater than 1 inside the NOT function. After saving and testing, the result will be false because 5 is indeed greater than 1. Now, let's switch the values and check if 1 is greater than 5 using the greater function. Since 1 is not greater than 5, the greater function will return false, and the NOT function will reverse this to true. Let's test it. And as expected, the result is true. That's it for the first part of our logical functions guide. Thank you for watching, and I hope this helped you understand the basics of these essential functions. Be sure to join us again in the second part. See you next time.